Our guest today is Younes Sadaghiani. He was born in Iran under the Islamic Republic, left as a teenager, and has spent years speaking out against the regime from the West. Right now, Iran is exploding, mass protests, entire cities slipping out of regime control, and reports that tens of thousands of protesters have been killed. While much of the world looks away, Younes is in direct contact with people inside Iran, tracking what's really happening on the ground and why this moment may be unlike anything we've seen in 47 years. Younes, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Stand tall Israel. But Daniel, thanks for having me, Daniel. I checked some of your videos. I saw you have very big figures on the channel. So when the opportunity came, I couldn't turn it down.
Thank you. There are reports that as many as 20,000 protesters have been killed in Iran. What are you hearing directly from inside the country, and how bad is it really?
Look, the figures could be even more. We don't have specific figures because obviously the internet is shut down. However, what we do know is that Ayatollah Khamenei has brought Iraqi militias with him, with tanks. We have also tanks in the middle of the road now. We have fighters, professional fighters that are there just to kill Iranian people. We also have a counter-protest organized by the regime, and that's the one the state media shows just to tell people, these people that are protesting are, paid by Mossad, So they're just doing projection. They're just trying to say that these protesters are Mossad agents, as if, you have millions of Mossad agents in Iran. It's just a ridiculous thing to say. But they've just started killing people. And it doesn't stop there. I want to tell something to the viewers that's going to shock them. And it has been going on for a long time, actually, in Iran. When they kill someone, they charge for the bullet, right? So sometimes if you want to receive the body, you have to pay $15,000. So let me put that into context. Imagine you're a father and your son goes to the protest, gets shot in the head, dies, then you have to pay the government $15,000 just to receive your son's dead body. Imagine how evil that is. Imagine how barbaric that is. It doesn't get more evil than this. Imagine killing someone's loved one and then charging the family money to receive the body. And that's who you're dealing with. And it's just unfortunate that in the West, people don't speak about this. They don't speak about the barbarism of the Islamic Republic. All they speak about is Israel. And they're just morally bankrupt, these people. Another thing I can tell you is that I've heard inside Iran, if you're walking down the street, IRGC members can stop you, can start searching you, they can find your phone, they can ask you to go on your phone. And even if you have videos of the protests, nothing special, just videos, it could be from you in the protest or from your window outside, they can literally take you to jail, beat you up, and charge you for attending the protest and hang you, just for having a video on your phone. And this is the type of regime we're dealing with. It's the biggest evil I have ever seen in my life.
Now, why is the regime willing to kill so many people now? Is it because they fear that they're losing their grip on the country?
Look, these people are not even Iranians. They're just a bunch of Islamic extremists that have managed to stage a coup and took over Iran back in 1979. Okay? And the example I use is imagine if Hamas took over Israel, right? That's what the Islamic Republic is to Iranians. So yes, they have lost control ever since the beginning. After a few months, people realized how morally corrupt these people are. So we've had protests for the last 47 years. But these people, they just kill their own people. And unfortunately, normal people don't have access to weaponry. And this is what I mean. We need international support. Iranian people can't do it by themselves. They just can't, because we're not dealing with a democracy. We're dealing with a barbaric state that slaughters its own people, even charges them money after slaughtering them. The economy has collapsed. There is no water. There is no gas. There's no electricity. People are hungry. And on top of that, they have to deal with their loved ones being shot and killed. So I really hope this evil is eradicated from Iran. I really do.
Most people don't understand what Iran was like before 1979. Could you go into that a little bit and talk about how different it is now than it was back then?
Look, in 1975, Tehran was the second most visited city in the world after Paris, according to the National Geographic, which is a very established magazine. So I always say Iran or Tehran was like what Dubai is now. Look how everyone's going to Dubai to holiday. Back in the 70s, Tehran was the place people used to go and holiday. And, Iran, we have in the north, we call it Shomal, we have beautiful beaches. Also in the south, we have beautiful beaches. We have jungles, we have mountains, skiing resorts. Like in terms of natural resources, we were very rich. And during the Shah's time, it was doing very well to the point we was like on our way to become a superpower. So very free, very liberal. Women could wear whatever they wanted. And you see the pictures. I mean, if you look at the pictures from back then, it speaks for itself. And also we were respected on an international stage. We used to have we could go travel up to 90 countries without a visa. And, even in America, we could go to America very easily. Like they used to give visas to Iranians to go to America very easily. And that's why a lot of Iranians actually left to go to California after the revolution. The salaries were very high. The salary of one person could work and look after 5 or 6 people. Like, for example, my granddad. People could work for 6 months and afford to buy a home for themselves. They could afford to go on holidays. Food was cheap. Everything was cheap. There was no inflation. The wages were growing. Like all these things from every single front, from the economic front to the social front, we were progressing very fast. And I always say, if we made it to the 1980s, we could have been a world superpower. Because normally Iran is a big country, first of all. And we also have the second highest gas reserves and the second highest oil reserves. And also precious metals. So there was a study done actually from an Australian university that said under normal circumstances, Iran should be in the top 5 GDPs of the world. Under normal circumstances, we can be but guess what happened when the mullahs took over? First of all, they're incompetent, they're uneducated, but also they spend all that money strengthening terrorism in the region, giving it to Hamas, giving it to Hezbollah, giving it to the Houthis, giving it to the Iraqi militias that are now in Iran killing innocent civilians, giving it even to just destabilizing the Middle East, building ballistic missiles, wasting it on a nuclear infrastructure when the people are starving. And obviously the people are not stupid. They can see that.
Yeah. And people don't realize that there were direct flights between Israel and Iran at that time. The relationship was very good. It's very hard to imagine that there was a day that Iran and Israel were close to each other.
No, I mean, not just before the revolution. I think our history goes back many, many years, thousands of years with Cyrus the Great and the first Bill of Human Rights that was ever signed that gave Jewish people the right to live peacefully within Persia. Also, we had Xerxes, I think, that married Esther. And, and a lot of Jews actually ended up coming from Jerusalem to the center of Persia. And we used to have a big, big population, Iranian Jewish population in Tehran and all other cities, Isfahan and all around. And all those, I think there's only 7,000 Jews left in Iran. Only about 7,000 Jews are left. I think 100,000 escaped just to come to Israel. And then the rest went to America. I think some of the richest families in America are actually Persian Jews. So it's a shame. I mean, it's just a shame. We could have, Iran or Persia could have been one of the most beautiful, most advanced countries in the world. But it's not.
Now, the regime says that they don't have problems with Jews. They have Jews living there. They say that the problem is that once you become a Zionist supporting Israel, then we have a problem with you. Do you think that is a lie, or do you think that that's really what they believe?
No, I think it's a lie, honestly. I think it's a lie. And Zionism just means Israel should have a state. If Muslims can have 57 states, then Jews should be able to have one. Okay. And no, they try to dilute the water by making comments like that, actually. They just say, well, we're not anti-Jewish, we're anti-Zionist. Well, what does Zionism mean? Yeah, Israel should just have a state. Okay. So it's nonsense. It's really nonsense. But then look, there were many evil forces that actually led to the Islamic Republic coming into power. It was the Americans, it was the British, it was the French. And now, even though the Americans want them gone, the British are 50-50, the French are 50-50, like countries like Turkey with Erdogan, they don't want the Islamic Republic gone. Some of the Gulf states might not want the Islamic Republic gone because look what happened to Dubai or UAE, for example. That was supposed to be southern Iran. What happened to Dubai was originally planned for our islands called Kish, if you don't know. So, we have an island south of Iran in the Persian Gulf that had a plan to become like Dubai, to become this advanced resort city with beautiful beaches and everything. But then once the revolution happened, that plan kind of got moved to the other side of the pond. So these countries like UAE, I'm not sure if they want the Islamic Republic gone, because look at the money they're making from tourism. If Iran becomes freed, if Iran is freed, all of a sudden all that money is going to go to Iran. Saudi might not want, But I think overall, I'm hopeful. I think overall, even UAE understands that it's better for the region because Iran is a destabilizing force. Saudi understands it with Mohammed bin Salman that actually protected Israel from a lot of rockets coming from Iran. I think overall, look, my mentality is that a rising tide raises all ships, So if Iran is freed, it's good for everyone. Yeah, it might be bad for some competitors because they might lose some business, but overall, it's good for the world. But there's still countries that don't want it. Erdogan doesn't want it with Turkey because obviously he has a lot of tourism going there for many different reasons, medical reasons, or he's also very anti-Israel, Erdogan. So he thinks this might be an Israeli plot. He doesn't want the Islamic Republic gone. Russians don't want them gone with Putin because, it's like a web of evil and there's different arms to it. So Venezuela was on one arm. Another arm is the Islamic Republic. So the more arms you cut off is like the more arms of Russia you're cutting off. So it puts Russia in a compromised position. And let's not forget, Russia has the biggest gas field in the world, but then Iran has the second biggest gas field. So if Iran comes into the market, now they're under sanctions. But if Iran comes in, it takes away the monopoly that Russians have over gas. Maybe the Chinese don't want them gone because they're buying oil for dirt cheap, like 30% of the actual value. So there's a whole geopolitical battle being played here. There's some people within the West that don't want them gone because they're brainwashed, woke mind virus, free Palestine, all these type of people that, used to be in the streets for 2 years straight saying free Palestine, but they don't say a word about Iranian people. So it's hypocrisy, it's the woke mind virus, it's Islamism, it's Marxism, it's also economic interests, geopolitical interests, military interests. So, however, I think the overall scale is actually pointing more towards the Islamic Republic going rather than the other way.
How do you think practically the U.S., President Trump, could help the protesters?
Look, I think the best way for America to help us is to do airstrikes on people like Khamenei, on top IRGC members, on the ballistic missiles, on the Iraqi militias. And once people see that, Iranian people will rise. I don't necessarily think we need boots on the ground, to be honest, because from the experience of Iraq and Afghanistan, when you have boots on the ground, it actually rallies people more towards the state rather than the other way around. So I think the best way America can help us is to take out major key targets, and that's individuals on sites. So ballistic missiles, Khamenei and his inner circle, nuclear facilities, if there's any left, and also support us in the transition, or maybe do something like what they done to Maduro. Just come and capture Khamenei, take him back, and something like that.
It seems that they had a chance to assassinate Khamenei in the 12-day war with Israel, and for some reason, President Trump called it off. Do you think that assassinating him would cause some chaos or something, or what do you think about it?
So look, I have my own theory on why Trump stopped. I think that, first of all, during the 12-day war, people were very scared. They were quite skeptical maybe of Israel. So, and a lot of Iranians left Tehran. They left major cities and they went to the suburbs because they didn't want to be bombed. And also at the time, Trump was trying to say to his base in America, because, he kind of got elected on the premise of, I'm the peace president. I don't want to start any new wars. But then if he entered a full-blown war with the Islamic Republic, then his base would have said, oh, you said no wars, but now you got us into a new war. So I think he played the card of, look, I'm going to take out the nuclear facilities, going to weaken them, and I'm going to play ball with them. Like saying, I'm going to try to make a deal with them. But then if they reject the deal, like they did, I can come and say to my base, look, I tried to make a deal with them. They rejected it. So now we have no options. Also, I think he was waiting for Iranian people to rise up. Okay. And that has happened. So this is what I mean. Look, all the factors that we need are in place. We have internal uprising. We have a good opposition, like a united opposition. And also, we just need the third piece of the jigsaw puzzle, which is international support. And that's airstrikes
How do you think that the media has been so silent on what's going on when they were so loud about what happened in Gaza? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's very complicated. I think there has been an infiltration of our institutions in media, mainstream media, especially the left-leaning media, and they have this theory of anti-Israeli theory, anti-Zionist theory. And I think, look, a lot of the infiltration actually happened by the Islamic Republic, maybe, or their people. Because, Qatar sends a lot of money to universities, donations, and actually a lot of that money comes from the Islamic Republic because they share a gas field in the Persian Gulf. But because Iran is under sanctions, Qatar takes the money, sells the gas, but then gives a check every year to the Islamic Republic. So I think a lot of the infiltration is coming through there. But also, I think we lost the media front war. The mainstream media, the left-leaning media, they always think they are on the side of the oppressed, but true oppression is happening in Iran. It's not happening in Palestine. Palestine had an opportunity to be a democratic state, to build Gaza as the new Dubai. They had the funding, they had everything. But instead of building skyscrapers, they built tunnels. So it's just hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy, it's brainwashing, it's moral cowardice, it's moral bankruptcy, all these things. And I think that's the eighth front, as they say, winning the media war, winning the narrative war. And their silence speaks very loud. Honestly, their silence speaks very loud. This is something that will be used against them for many, many years.
I think you've said something before in previous interviews that Iranians are natural allies of Israelis. Why is that the case, and how much support do you have for Israel in Iran?
Majority of Iranians support Israel, that's for sure. No doubt about that. Iranians love Israel. Naturally, Iranians and Israelis, they're two different, they're not Arabs, by nature. They are, they have their own unique identity, unique religion. Iranians are originally Zoroastrian. Jewish people are Jewish. And, we're kind of in a neighborhood where everyone's kind of Arab and Muslim. So we almost feel like the ones left out because we don't really belong, and we know we don't belong. Yeah, there might be some overlaps. There might be some Arab Jews, and, there might be a lot of Muslim Iranians now. But Islam was something that was always imposed on us. The same with the Jews. The massacre that happened of the Jews, of the Jewish community of Khyber, and also the same massacre happened in Iran when Islam was imposed on us. They beheaded people, killed people just to convert. So, and I think the Islamic Republic is the second coming of what happened 1,400 years ago in Iraq. Iranians are not Muslim. Even now, there's a survey out that more than 60% of Iranians denounce Islam. But even those, the ones that are Muslim, they are not radicals. And I think it's just not in our nature because our culture is very fun, very open-minded, very inclusive. It doesn't try to force itself. So Islam is like the polar opposite to what Zoroastrianism is. So I think we have this thing in common. I also mentioned already, we have historical ties to the Jews, something that goes way beyond Islam and Arabs. So apart from that, what I would like to say, there's something called the Abraham Accords. They try to normalize relations with Arab states and Israel, which is fine. That's completely fine. But I always say we wouldn't even need Abraham Accords if Iran is freed, And that's what we like to call the Cyrus Accords, So I think that the future is bright. I'm really hopeful. It will happen soon. I don't think it can go on like this, but we need international support.
Bibi Netanyahu, he's always sending messages of support to the Iranian people. And it's just so ironic that the mullahs and the regime hates Israel so much, whereas the people love Israel. The dynamic is very interesting.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, because the Islamic Republic does not represent Iranians, It's apartheid state. People keep talking about apartheid state. Iran is an apartheid state. It's an apartheid for women. It's an apartheid for non-Muslims. It's an apartheid maybe for Sunni Muslims even. It's an apartheid for everyone. It's just oppression. So
what's the percentage of people in Iran that actually supports the regime in their ideology?
10 to 20% maximum.
Wow. And so it's just 10 to 20% is basically taking over the country.
Yeah. So it's I'm saying 20% maximum, by the way. 10%, 20%. But let's be clear about something. I think even those 10 or 20%, apart maybe from the hard right of 1, 2, 3% of those people, I think those 10 to 20%, they are, first of all, brainwashed by the religion, and they think somehow Khamenei is their spiritual leader, but also they think that maybe, Israel or America is not their friend. So they're okay, maybe the devil is better than the devil you don't know. But even those people are unhappy because they're broke, They're broke, They don't have money. So they're even those people are starting to turn. So
Yeah.
overwhelming majority of Iranians are against the Islamic Republic. They're pro-Israel, they're pro-West. As I said already, we're not Arabs, we're Persians. So we have our own unique culture, which is very actually compatible with Western values.
Why do you think it is that the regime has spent so much money trying to destroy Israel with their terrorist proxies, ignoring their own people's needs, their own economy, with this just one goal of trying to destroy Israel all of these years, which has been failing?
I think that the Islamic Republic is not even about Iran. It's about the Islamic Republic. Like the IRGC is like the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which it doesn't have a word of Iran in it. In that sentence, there's no mention of Iran. So I think the Islamic Republic fundamentally is like a multi-stated, theocratical Islamic caliphate led by Khamenei. And one of their arms is Hezbollah, another arms is Houthis, another arms is Hamas, another arms is these militias in Iraq. So I just don't think they even care about Iranians. And I think what's happening is on a certain level is ideological battle. It's the hatred of the Jews, is what goes back to Muhammad, but also it's a geopolitical battle because, they have managed to brainwash people into thinking that Israel is a colonial state by America and they need to get out of the Middle East. And people believe it, unfortunately. For the most part, unfortunately, people in the Middle East, not Iranians, but people in the Middle East, they believe it. They're anti-Israel. And they see that, and, they can maneuver on that and they can posture on that. And it sells. And, I think they are just brainwashed. But also, let's not forget, these people are mentally brainwashed, okay? They think life begins at death, okay? They worship death. They think that when they die, they go to heaven and they get 72 virgins, which is a very earthly desire if you think about it, okay? I think heaven and hell wouldn't be earthly desires. I wouldn't think, oh my God, I would have earthly desires. And there's like things like, oh, there's like rivers of honey and milk. Like it's so earthly, it's so low level thinking. And I think Muhammad probably told this to his fighters just to, get them encouraged to go and die for him. So that's how they think. They worship death. Israelis, Iranians, majority of the world, they worship life. But these people worship death. They can't wait to die. That mentality is a mentality of darkness, is a mentality of oppression. Not just for the people around, but just for themselves as well. It's like a mind virus. And what we're fighting is a mind virus fundamentally. And that's why doing these kind of podcasts is very important, trying to unbrainwash people. Look, at the end of the day, everything shows. States that have shown to cooperate and work with Israel and America and the West are thriving. Look at UAE, look at Saudi, and look at some other countries as well around the Middle East. But then you look at countries that defect from Israel and America, they all become dark and, they all become resentful. I think that's the word. They're very resentful people. So it doesn't really matter. I think you can only show by example, and Israel is doing very well. They won the ground war the first time round. But again, I want to reiterate this message. Don't betray Iranian people. They've done what you asked them to do. They've been out in the streets for almost 3 weeks now. Okay? Thousands of people dead. Israel kept saying, if the people protest, we will help them. America said the same thing with Donald Trump. It's been 3 weeks and yet they haven't done anything. So let's hope within the next few hours, something will happen. And I think that's a great way to end the interview. Don't you think?
Yes, exactly. I want to thank you for your time and for all of your activism. And I hope that we'll hear, good news in the coming days.
Hopefully. Thank you.